Hey there everyone, welcome back to Utility Sports. Really excited for this video as we're going to further discuss Damian Lillard. We're going to give an update to where we are with trade discussions between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Miami Heat, as well as a variety of other teams. I'm going to talk about in this video where I think Damian Lillard is ultimately going to be traded to, and I'm going to talk about Joe Cronin's process, the Blazers GM, and what I expect him to continue to do going forward. Now, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more, and let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it here with a tweet from Tim McMahon of ESPN reporting on the situation between Damian Lillard and the Portland Trail Blazers, where Blazers GM Joe Cronin came out and said, "We're going to be patient. We're going to do what's best for our team. We're going to see how this lands, and if it takes months, it takes months." And that's kind of the vibe I've had here. When the news first broke about the Damian Lillard trade request, I felt like I was glued to Twitter trying to see pretty much every single second, is he going to get traded? When's he going to get dealt? And as time's gone on, my understanding of the situation has been exactly what Tim McMahon has reported here, that this situation is going to take a bit of time because the market's not there for Damian Lillard right now because of the actions of his agent. And I think it's going to come down to Portland playing a little bit of hardball with him and maybe even efforting the fact that they won't trade him if it's not for a package that they love. And that might get a little chippy. The sides might get a little heated, but the Blazers have the leverage here because Damian Lillard is under contract. If he doesn't want to play, fine. You're going to play your young guys anyway if you're Portland, and you have to be patient here. If you're the Portland Trail Blazers, you do not rush a superstar trade, especially a superstar of the magnitude of Damian Lillard, the best player in franchise history. I know there's a big thought process right now that says, oh, well, he's the best player in franchise history. You got to do right by him. You have to do right by your franchise as well. Now, the best case scenario here for Portland is they're able to find a trade to the Miami Heat that is comparable enough to the other offers out in the marketplace that it's worth taking, that it's worth accepting that type of deal. That way Damian Lillard's happy, the Blazers are happy, and at the end of the day, everyone can go home, be happy, and go on their merry ways. Cronin here also adds that a deal that makes everyone happy often requires a list of more than one preferred destination. That's kind of the difficulty we're running into here, because if you're Miami and Damian Lillard's sitting out there saying, oh, I only want Miami and I'm not going to play anywhere else, your kind of focus on trying to get a deal done is maybe a little bit lower even, because you don't feel any pressure. Your feet aren't to the fire at all where, could Portland trade him to Brooklyn or could they trade him to Philadelphia? We're going to talk about some of those options in this video where I lay out some of the best trade packages each of these teams can put together, mostly in 2-team deals, but there's also 1 3-team trade in this video that we're going to talk about as kind of just an update again to what these offers might end up looking like for Damian Lillard. And I think there's a really wide variety of things here that could ultimately change the direction of the organization for the Portland Trail Blazers for the benefit of their franchise, honestly. I think, Scoot and Shane Sharp, that's a fantastic young duo. I'm very excited to see what they do, but getting this trade right really springs you forward in your rebuild, giving you extra assets to play with, make trades with, and to draft with. And I think that's going to be really pivotal for Portland, who's done a fantastic job so far. I think pretty much every single draft pick they've had over the last 2 years, they've nailed. I like Jabari Walker. I think Chris Murray was a really nice pick. I think Ryan Rupert in round 2 was good. And of course, Sharp and Scoot are very, very good young players. So I think that those two guys are the build-around pieces. So let's jump into what this first trade could theoretically look like in a deal with the Brooklyn Nets. And, again, it's going to come down to whether or not a team is willing to put an offer out there for a star who might be a little discontent at first coming to the organization. Now, if you're Brooklyn, there's been reports that Damian Lillard and Mikal Bridges are very, very close. So would Damian Lillard like to play for the Brooklyn Nets? I know right now he's trying to push for the Miami Heat. If you're another team, listen, he's under contract for a long time. You kind of have to call his bluff here. If you're another organization, you think Damian Lillard's one of the missing pieces on your championship caliber team, then you have to be willing to push for that. You have to be willing to take that risk and say, look, if he's not going to play, he's not going to play, but he's got 4 years left on his contract. I just don't see it very likely that Damian Lillard, whose goal is to win right now, for him to sit out. That doesn't equate winning. Damian Lillard not showing up to training camp doesn't equate to winning. So I think that Damian Lillard here is bluffing. I think a team's going to have to call his bluff out on that. Otherwise, you say, okay, then you're not getting any of your money, and we're going to spend the back end of your prime here without you playing. That's going to go really badly against your legacy. And in this deal, why does it make sense for Portland? First of all, you're getting a massive amount of draft capital. 4 first-round picks. You're also getting Spencer Dinwiddie in this deal as the Nets pivot from one point guard to a much better one, from Dinwiddie to Damian Lillard. And they do that to address a different need. So they could get this deal done theoretically without Dinwiddie, keep him as a backup guard, which I do like that option. But Brooklyn really needs rebounding. Of course, they did try to address it on draft night, selecting a big man in Noah Clowney, but I don't know if you can rely on that solely in year one. If you're looking for a backup big, Jusuf Nurkic probably could be one of the better ones in the league. Of course, he's been predominantly a starter in Portland throughout his career since getting traded there from the Denver Nuggets, but I think Nurkic could, at this point of his career, transition very well as a backup big who could maybe be a hub of the offense for the second unit. He rebounds the ball very well at about 9 rebounds a game last season when he was out on the court. Now, he's been injured a little bit. He's been a little bit of in and out of the lineup lately last couple of years, but I think when Nurkic is healthy, he would significantly help this Nets team with one of their biggest needs. Damian Lillard, of course, is a significant upgrade, and the way I look at it here from Brooklyn, at this spot, you're getting 2 guys into your rotation. You're not really trading any rotation players. Ben Simmons was not in their rotation down the stretch of the season last year. Dinwiddie, of course, he was, but it's a significant upgrade from Dinwiddie to Dame. Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, not really in the rotation either. So you're kind of taking your core nucleus, the team that was, not great, but good after the Kevin Durant trade, and you're now pivoting into a team that could be great with a new star in there, and you have the surrounding pieces in Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, who they just re-signed, Nick Claxton, who I think has a legit case for Defensive Player of the Year this upcoming season if he plays the way I'm expecting him to, and kind of repeat fashion from this past year. This Nets team is really, really good. They've also got guys like Royce O'Neal, Dorian Finney-Smith. They've got the pieces to build a good caliber defense around Damian Lillard, which is yet to be done in the NBA. We'll see if they're able to get it done with Jacques Vaughn as the coach there, but I think Brooklyn is a really intriguing landing spot. And again, for Portland here, you're getting Dinwiddie, who you can reflip into something, whether that's 2 seconds, maybe a late first at the deadline. We'll see what he is, but he's a pretty sizable contract that is expiring, so he should definitely be movable. Ben Simmons, everyone's going to knock him. You don't even have to count on him to be anything for you, Portland, here. But what he does become is a year from now, a giant expiring contract where maybe you say, oh, well, we'll use his contract to eat some other bad contracts in a year. And then what we'll do with that is we'll get some extra draft capital out of him since he's an expiring contract. That's the worst case scenario with Ben Simmons. Best case is maybe he shows up and he looks a little bit healthier and he plays a little bit more like what he used to be in Philadelphia. That would be awesome. You also get a young upside swing in Cam Thomas, who I think would be an awesome off-the-bench player for them. Now, they do have Simons already in what I'm expecting to be a pretty similar role, but Cam Thomas is a bucket getter, kid can play, and then Day'Ron Sharpe, nice physical big. Kind of underutilized so far in the league at this point. I'd like to see Sharpe in a bigger role. And then you're getting those 4 first-round picks, and I would say the 4 picks you're getting here are highly valuable. Those 2027, 2029 Phoenix picks, Durant's going to be basically 40 years old when some of those convey. So those are going to be valuable assets, in my opinion. You also look at 2027, the first rounder from Philadelphia. Who knows if Harden's there? Who knows if Embiid's there? Heck, who knows if Nick Nurse is there even, who just got hired as their head coach. A lot can change between now and 2027. So that Philly pick might be some high upside in there. And then that 2029 Dallas first. Listen, Luka Doncic has 3 years left on his deal. Is Luka going to be there in 2029? I can almost certainly guarantee that Kyrie Irving will not be there in 2029. Will Luka Doncic be there? And if not, that 2029 first rounder from Dallas might look really, really attractive. So Portland's getting an interesting collection of assets here in this deal. This is probably one of the better offers that Brooklyn can put out there, which for comparison's sake, I think is worth looking at. But now we'll pivot into a 3-team trade. And this one ends up bringing Damian Lillard to the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think when you look at the 76ers depth chart right now, they're a little thin in the front court, specifically on the wings. The forward spots are a little so-so, I would say. So this trade kind of addresses that a little bit. Now, there's a lot of moving pieces in this, so let me break it down. Let's start with the 76ers. What are they getting? They're getting Damian Lillard, they're getting Nick Batum, Robert Covington, and Nasir Little. Significant help for their wing spots specifically. Batum, kind of a true small forward, power forward type a little bit. I know that Fanspo has him listed as a shooting guard. He doesn't put a lot of rim pressure on, I understand that, but he's going to play out of the corner. He's going to move the ball. He's a very good connector. Robert Covington gives him some size, can play some backup 5. Not that they're going to need that because they just signed Paul Reed. They matched the offer sheet that Utah gave. But in some interesting lineups, maybe Covington can give them some solid weak side rim protection alongside a big as well. Nasir Little, I think a player who's on a really good contract. He's young. I think Philadelphia needs more of these players. And this deal helps them duck the tax. So after making a move here where they match that offer sheet for Paul Reed, they actually ducked the tax here while adding an extra player onto the roster, which could help them make another move down the road where they dump even more money, which is pretty important to note in this, that Philadelphia, financially, this makes a good deal of sense for them, saving that $5 million. Saving that room does go a long way in team building, and I think it's going to be good for Philadelphia. And you essentially pivot from Harden, Korkmaz, Harris into Lillard, Batum, Covington, Little. And I think that's a really good get for that organization if they're able to pull that off. The Clippers here are the real facilitator of this three-team trade due to their lack of the ability to go out and get a third star at this point. It's just been an issue for the Clippers since putting Kawhi and Paul George together. It's always been, well, who's the third best player on this team? You know, they had the Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell combination back in the day. Those two were good, but I just felt like, you know, they've never had a real solid third contributor. And I think now with Harden and Harris there, the two of them not only gives you a third guy with Harden, who's a really good facilitator, can run their offense, get them into pick and rolls. He's very accustomed to small and wing pick and roll combinations where Kawhi, Paul George could be screeners for him, something that the Clippers haven't leaned into a ton, but I think they have kind of the skill set that they'd be really good at that. If you find Kawhi Leonard on a short roll, I think that'd be pretty dangerous for an offense to run consistently. That's a pretty scary form of offense. And then Tobias Harris, another shot maker, he returns back to Los Angeles where he kind of started to build up his career. And I think a return to LA would be really nice for him as well in bolstering their starting lineup. And from the Blazers' perspective, now this is why these three teams together are very important. The 76ers don't have enough assets to go get a star. The Clippers do not have enough assets to go get a star. But if they work together, and if the Sixers want to pivot from Harden and Harris into Dame plus depth, they have the pathway of doing that by using the Clippers picks and the Sixers picks in conjunction to put together a very competitive offer to the Blazers, where the Blazers here in this package would get Norm Powell, who they could probably ship out in a separate deal later on. He, of course, returns to Portland here. I'm sure that he would not last there very long, probably would be traded by the deadline again, or perhaps there's a fourth team to get involved here instantly for him. And then Marcus Morris, expiring contract, does not hurt Portland long-term at all. Terrence Mann, he's really the blue chip player in this that they're getting back. And I know it doesn't seem super exciting saying, oh, well, Terrence Mann's the top player you're getting for Damian Lillard. I understand that, but he is a very good player. He's a good defender. I think he's a pretty versatile guy who can fit next to Scoot and Shaden, which is really important. And, you know, some people have floated the idea of Maxey, talking about Tyler Hero. I think Terrence Mann's a guy that fits onto this roster better if you're trying to actually keep this player. Whereas those other guys, maybe there's more trade value there. Maybe you could package them somewhere else, but I don't know how cleanly they fit next to those other guys compared to Terrence Mann, who's a little bit bigger, a little bit more versatile defensively. And because of that, I think he would have more staying power there in the Pacific Northwest with the Blazers. Then Furkan Korkmaz, he's in here as an expiring contract. Again, the Blazers here are acquiring a few expiring contracts, which is pretty nice for them. They're getting out of some significant long-term money, obviously, in Dame and Nasir Little. They get tradable contracts back in Powell. Morris would be tradable if a team wanted him. Not sure that one will, though. But you get Korkmaz here to another expiring. Amir Coffey, solid young player, played his college ball at the University of Minnesota. Used to play point guard. Could not shoot the three ball at all coming into the NBA. Now he's actually a pretty good three-point shooter in general. Shot a ton of threes down in the G League in his stretch there. So he's a more reliable player. I think every single day he's getting better and better. And then Bones Highland, player who the Clippers acquired last deadline. He gets rerouted in this too. It was very pivotal that the Clippers actually sent out more money than they were taking in as a second apron team. So we had to include a ton of players here. The Clippers are trading a ton of players. I understand that that's one of the faults of this trade, but if you look at the Clippers roster right now, they're pretty deep. They have a lot of solid players, and I think pivoting from 3 or 4 good depth players to 2 starting level players is super important for them. And then there's also 2 first-round picks here from the Clippers who are getting James Harden in this deal. And then there's a first-rounder from Philadelphia unprotected in 2029, as well as pick swaps in 28 and 2030. So it's a pretty competitive offer for the Blazers. Again, maybe not the best offer they can get, but it's still a good competitive offer where the Sixers and Clippers work together here, accomplish both of their goals, and the Blazers get a vast collection of stuff in return, which I think does make some sense. Maybe not the best package again. Maybe there's better out there for Damian Lillard, but I think it's a pretty strong offer. And then we, of course, get to the final one here where people are expecting him to go, and I ultimately do expect him to be playing for the Miami Heat. Damian Lillard will be a Miami Heat at the end of the day, in my opinion. Now listen, I've been very much in the standpoint that the Blazers need to do what's best for them, and I think that they will. My question is, what other team is going to get to this offer for the Miami Heat? This is not a great offer, in my opinion, for a superstar, but I think with the leverage game that Dame's playing right now, they might be able to effectively hold out the market enough where the Blazers don't get as much as they would love to get for Damian Lillard. Now, it's not a terrible offer. It's not like you're getting a bag of Doritos here. You're getting some good pieces. The most important one being Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero here would get rerouted to some other third team. That's like really the most important part. Now, you could say, is that Brooklyn? Is that San Antonio? Is that team X, Y, or Z that we haven't talked about yet? Very possible that that would be the case. And I don't think that Portland would actually have any interest in Tyler Hero on this contract playing for their organization. With Anthony Simons already there, I just can't really see it myself unless Simons were to go back to Miami and maybe Kyle Lowry's contract's in there, and then maybe there's a little bit of a pick amendment with Oklahoma City where the Heat could get a third first-round pick to trade. That's really the important things to watch. That's really one big situation that we need to keep our eye on. But at this point, there has been no amendments to that pick with Oklahoma City that the Heat currently owe. You get Duncan Robinson in here to match money, and this is one of the issues with the Heat's offer compared to those Clippers offers and some of the other ones. There's no expiring contract in here. You know, if you're committing to Hero and Robinson, you've got them for at least the next 2 years before Robinson becomes an expiring contract in that third year. So you're tying yourself up long-term to these guys. So if you're Portland, is Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson what you want to tie yourself to? The answer to that is probably no for me. Now, I do think Duncan Robinson would actually be pretty solid for the Blazers, giving them some spacing around Scoot and Shaden and using him as an off-ball player. I don't think there's anything wrong with having Duncan Robinson on the roster. I just think that if you're, again, trying to maximize return for Damian Lillard, these are not typically the two headliners you'd be hoping to get. You know, I think Tyrese Maxey's a lot more of an attractive name. Otherwise, a collection of 4 or 5 first-round picks, like what we saw from Brooklyn, or in that deal with the 3-team deal between the Clippers and Sixers, they get more draft assets. And I think for a team that has so far shown that they can draft very well, whether that's in the 50s, whether that's in the early lottery, pick 3 with Scoot or pick 7 with Shaden, like, you want picks. Chris Murray at 23, I think very good pick. You want draft picks if you're Portland. I think those are all really important things. But they are getting a collection of players here. Jaime Jaquez, first-round pick this past year for the Miami Heat. We'll see what he ends up being, but he's got a very good stride stop. He's got a pros game. I think he would fit in pretty well in Portland. I know people are going to say, oh, well, he makes more sense on a contender. Yeah, because he's ready to play. But if you're Portland, why would you not want a ready-to-play player? It's the best way to put a good infrastructure around your current young guys who I still think need to grow. Scoot and Shaden, they're not finalized products yet. I think they're both very good. I think they're going to get really, really, really good in the future. So having a guy like Jaime next to him isn't the end of the world. I think it's actually pretty good. Jovic is a little bit more of a development piece. I think he's going to have a nice role on this Blazers team. Is kind of a floor spacing 4 for them. He drives the ball very well. He's been very aggressive in Summer League, which I've liked to see when he's been out there. You get 2 unprotected firsts, and then you get swaps in 28 and 2030. So you're really walking out of this with 2 first-round picks. If Miami ends up being bad in these swap years, maybe those are good assets too. But ultimately, you can compare this offer to the other ones, the Brooklyn offer here, where you're getting 4 first-rounders, just unprotected 4 firsts, and some other interesting young pieces. Or in this one, you're getting 3 unprotected firsts and 2 swaps. This is just not the same level offer. It just isn't. But again, the question is it close enough to rationalize if you're Portland? And the answer to that might be yes, which is ultimately why I think Damian Lillard is going to be a Miami Heat at the end of the day. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more content as well. Let me know down in the comment section where you expect Damian Lillard to end up playing, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.